I'm standing in my father's study, surrounded by 18 years of love I never knew existed, and I can barely breathe. The Old Spice cologne still clings to his leather chair, the same scent I remember from childhood bedtime stories. My hands shake as I hold his journal, pages yellowed with time and filled with entries dated just weeks ago. March 15th, I tried calling Linda again today, begging her to tell me where you are, Sarah. The words blur through my tears. My father's handwriting. My father's voice speaking to me from beyond the grave. Dad? I whisper to the empty room, and the sound echoes back like a prayer. On the walls around me, hundreds of photos document a life he watched from a distance: my high school graduation, my wedding, my divorce. Newspaper clippings of art awards I'd won. Screenshots of my social media posts, printed and framed like precious artifacts. In the corner, a stack of 18 wrapped Christmas presents. 18 years of birthdays and holidays he celebrated alone, buying gifts for a daughter who thought he was dead. The journal falls open to his final entry: Sarah, if you're reading this, it means Margaret kept her promise. Not a single day passed when I didn't think of you. My knees give out. I collapse into his chair, inhaling that familiar cologne, and 18 years of grief crashes over me like a tsunami. All this time, I hated him for abandoning us. All this time, he was 3 hours away, dying of cancer, spending his last dollars on private investigators instead of treatment, searching for me. I never stopped looking for you, I read aloud, my voice breaking on every word. That Tuesday morning, I thought I was just signing for a stranger's package. I had no idea it would resurrect my father and rewrite everything I believed about love, loss, and the lies we tell ourselves to survive. My Tuesday mornings follow the same rhythm they have for 3 years now: coffee at 7 a.m. sharp, black with 1 sugar, while I water my collection of succulents lined up on the kitchen windowsill. I've named them all after colors: sage, burgundy, coral. It's silly, but they're the closest thing I have to a family. I work from home as a freelance graphic designer, which sounds glamorous until you realize it means spending most days in yoga pants, talking to clients through a computer screen, and eating lunch standing over the kitchen sink. My apartment is small but mine, finally mine after the divorce 3 years ago. Every wall displays my artwork, abstract pieces in blues and grays that my ex-husband called depressing but that feel like home to me. The silence doesn't bother me anymore. After years of David's constant criticism, the quiet feels like healing. I've learned to enjoy my own company, to find comfort in routines that nobody can disrupt or judge. I check my phone while the coffee brews, 3 new client emails, a reminder about my dentist appointment, nothing personal. My contact list is embarrassingly short: clients, my therapist Dr. Rodriguez, the pizza place down the street, and Mom. That's it. Mom's contact photo is blank because we haven't taken a picture together in over 5 years. Our relationship exists in polite, distant phone calls every few months. How's work, Sarah? Fine, Mom. How's retirement? Neither of us mentions Dad, not anymore. She told me he died in a car accident when I was 16, and I learned early not to ask questions that made her face go pale and her hands shake. Sometimes I catch myself staring at the empty picture frames on my bookshelf, the ones I bought thinking I'd fill them with family photos someday. But family for me is a concept that exists in other people's lives: holiday gatherings I see on social media, father-daughter dances I never attended, graduation photos with proud parents I never had. The closest I get to family connection is my weekly calls with Mrs. Chin next door, an elderly woman who brings me homemade soup when I'm sick and remembers my birthday when my own mother forgets. She calls me dear in her gentle voice and asks about my love life with genuine concern. "You're too young to be alone," she always says, patting my hand. Family isn't just about blood, you know. I've built a life that feels safe but sometimes hollow. I have financial stability, creative fulfillment, and the freedom to make my own choices without anyone's interference. I should be grateful. Most days, I am. But there's this ache that lives just below my ribs, especially on quiet Sunday afternoons when the whole world seems to be visiting relatives or sharing meals with loved ones. It's the feeling that something essential is missing, like trying to remember a song when you can only recall the melody but not the words. I've never had a relationship with my father that wasn't filtered through my mother's pain and anger. All I have are fragments: the smell of Old Spice cologne, strong hands teaching me to ride a bike, a voice reading bedtime stories that I can barely remember. Sometimes I wonder who he really was, what he might think of the woman I've become, whether he would have been proud of my art. But those thoughts lead nowhere productive. Dead people don't get to be proud of you. They don't get to explain themselves or apologize for leaving. They just leave gaps in your life that you learn to work around, like furniture you arrange to avoid an empty corner. I finish my coffee, water sage, and burgundy, and settle into my desk chair to tackle another day of logo designs and website layouts. Normal life. Predictable life. The kind of life where surprises don't happen and packages don't arrive to change everything. The doorbell rings at 11:47 a.m., interrupting my video call with a client who's explaining why her yoga studio logo needs more Zen energy. I apologize, mute myself, and pad to the front door in my fuzzy slippers. Through the peephole, I see a delivery driver in brown uniform, shifting his weight from foot to foot like he's in a hurry. He's holding a medium-sized box, nothing special about it except it looks older somehow, the brown tape slightly faded, corners soft with handling. "Sarah Martinez, apartment 4B, he asks when I open the door, scanning his handheld device with practiced efficiency. The name hits me like cold water. "Actually, it's Sarah Chin now," I say, my voice catching slightly. I haven't been Martinez in over 15 years. I stare at the package in his hands. The return address is handwritten in careful block letters: James Martinez, 1247 Oakwood Drive, Bend, Oregon. My heart stops. Martinez was my father's last name. My father's first name was James. "Look, lady, the GPS brought me here, and the apartment number matches. You want it or not?" The driver's impatience cuts through my shock. I should tell him there's been a mistake. I should explain that James Martinez died in a car accident 18 years ago, that whoever sent this package has outdated information. The logical thing would be to send it back, let the postal service figure it out. But my hands are already reaching for it, drawn by some magnetic pull I can't explain. Yes. I'll take it. The words come out before I can stop them. The package feels heavier than it looks, solid and warm from sitting in the delivery truck. I sign for it with shaking hands, my signature barely legible across the electronic screen. The driver nods and walks away, leaving me standing in my doorway holding a piece of my past I thought was buried forever. I close the door and lean against it, staring at the return address until the letters blur. The package smells faintly of cardboard and something else, something familiar I can't place. My unmuted client's voice drifts from my laptop. "Sarah? Are you there?" The connection seems to have frozen. But I can't move. Can't think. Can only stand here holding this impossible thing, this message from a ghost, while my entire carefully constructed world tilts on its axis. The handwriting looks like my father's, but that's impossible. Dead people don't send packages. I set the box on my coffee table like it might explode, then spend 20 minutes just staring at it. My hands won't stop sweating. I keep wiping them on my yoga pants, leaving damp streaks on the fabric. The return address haunts me: James Martinez, 1247 Oakwood Drive, Bend, Oregon. I trace each letter with my fingertip, the ink slightly smudged as if it were written in a hurry. It can't be him, I whisper to my empty apartment. Mom said he died in a car accident when I was 16. She showed me the newspaper clipping, cried for weeks. But even as I say it, doubt creeps in like smoke under a door. Mom always changed the subject when I asked questions about the accident. Never let me visit his grave. Said it would be too painful for both of us. I grab kitchen scissors with trembling hands and cut through the tape. It peels away with a sound like ripping paper, and suddenly I can smell it, Old Spice cologne mixed with leather and something else, something achingly familiar. Inside, wrapped in bubble wrap, sits a worn leather journal with a brass clasp. Underneath it, a handwritten note on blue stationery, the kind my grandmother used to buy at the drugstore. The note makes my world tilt sideways. Asterisk Sarah, your father asked me to send this if anything happened to him. He's been writing to you for years, never knowing how to reach you. He passed peacefully last month. Lung cancer. His final words were your name. Margaret, his neighbor, asterisk. My legs give out completely. I drop onto the couch hard, the journal clutched against my chest like armor. The leather is soft and warm, worn smooth by handling, and it smells exactly like my father's cologne, the scent I remember from bedtime stories and Saturday morning pancakes. Last month, I breathe. He died last month. Not 18 years ago in some distant car accident. Last month, while I was designing logos and watering succulents and living my ordinary life 3 hours away, completely unaware. With shaking fingers, I open the brass clasp. The journal falls open to an entry dated 3 months ago. Asterisk March 15th, I tried calling Linda again today, begging her to tell me where you are. She hung up on me. Sarah, if you ever read this, I never stopped looking for you. Not for a single day in 18 years. Asterisk. The handwriting is definitely his. I remember it from birthday cards when I was little, from notes he'd pack in my school lunches before everything fell apart. I flipped through pages and pages of entries, all addressed to me. All filled with a father's desperate love for a daughter he couldn't find. Asterisk June 3rd, saw a girl at the grocery store today who looked just like you did at 16. Same dark hair, same stubborn chin your grandmother used to tease you about. I followed her for 3 blocks before realizing how crazy I looked. Asterisk. Asterisk October 12th, your mother told you I didn't want you anymore, didn't she? That I chose work over family? Sarah, I came home that day to find you both gone. No note. No forwarding address. I've been searching for 18 years. Asterisk. Each entry is a knife to my chest. My father wasn't dead. He was alive, missing me, looking for me while I believed the lie that he'd abandoned us. While I built a life around the wound of thinking my father didn't love me enough to fight for me. Tears blur my vision as I read his words from just 2 weeks ago. Asterisk the cancer is getting worse. The doctors say I don't have long. Margaret promises she'll send you this journal if something happens to me. I hope you'll understand that your mother was hurting when she took you away. I've forgiven her. I hope someday you can forgive us both. Asterisk. My phone buzzes with another client call, but I can't answer. Can't speak. Can only sit here drowning in 18 years of lost love while my father's words swim before my eyes like a prayer I'm finally ready to hear. I spend the next week consuming every word my father wrote, reading each entry until I have them memorized. The journal becomes my Bible, my roadmap to a past I never knew existed. By day 3, I find Margaret's phone number penciled on the envelope's corner in my father's careful handwriting. I stare at those 10 digits for an hour before finally dialing with shaking fingers. Margaret? This is Sarah Martinez. I mean, Sarah Chen. You sent me my father's journal. Her voice is gentle but carries an urgency that makes my stomach clench. Oh honey, I promised him I would. He talked about you every single day for the 6 years I knew him. Listen, there's more you need to know. More than what's in that journal. What do you mean? Your mother, she didn't just take you away, Sarah. She cleaned out your father's business account when she left. Nearly $40,000. He never pressed charges because he thought if he stayed quiet, she might let him see you. The room spins. That's not. Mom wouldn't. Honey, I'm not trying to hurt you. But your father spent every penny he had left on private investigators instead of his cancer treatment. He could have gotten help earlier, but every dollar went to finding you. I hang up and immediately call my mother for the first time in 8 months. Sarah? What's wrong? You never call in the middle of the week. Did Dad die in a car accident, Mom? Long silence. Then, quietly, why are you asking me this now? Because I need to know the truth. For once in my life, I need you to tell me the truth. Sarah, some things are better left. He died last month, didn't he? From cancer. While you let me believe he was dead for 18 years. The sound she makes is half sob, half gasp. How do you? Oh God, how do you know that? He wrote to me, Mom. Every day for 18 years. He never stopped looking for me. You don't understand what he was like back then, she says, her voice cracking. The drinking, the gambling, losing his job. I was protecting you. From what? From a father who loved me? From a father who was falling apart. Who couldn't pay rent or buy groceries because he spent everything on. On what, Mom? Another long silence. When she speaks again, her voice is barely a whisper. I took money from his account. I had to. We had nowhere else to go. The admission hangs between us like a loaded gun. Everything I thought I knew about my childhood crumbles. You stole from him and then told me he was dead. I was 26 years old with a daughter to feed and no job skills. I was terrified. So you let me hate him for abandoning us when you were the one who left. I thought if enough time passed, if you built a good life, it wouldn't matter anymore. But it did matter. It mattered every Father's Day when I felt hollow inside. Every graduation, wedding, milestone when I wondered why my own father hadn't fought harder to be part of my life. I call Margaret back that evening. He tried to find me through private investigators, I say without preamble. 3 different ones over the years. The last one finally traced you to Portland just 2 months before your father died, but by then he was too weak for the drive. He asked me to go see you myself, but I was too much of a coward. 2 months? He knew where I was for 2 months? He spent his last weeks writing in that journal, addressing every letter to your Portland apartment. Said he was finally talking to his daughter again, even if you couldn't hear him yet. I hang up and sit in my kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of my ordinary life, while 18 years of carefully constructed lies collapse around me like a house of cards. I can't stop thinking about those 2 months. 2 months when my father knew exactly where I lived, could have knocked on my door any Tuesday morning, could have said my name out loud instead of writing it in a journal. The drive to Bend takes 4 hours, but I barely remember getting there. Margaret's address leads me to a small house with a garden full of roses and a welcome mat that says home is where love lives. She opens the door before I can knock, a woman in her 70s with kind eyes and silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. She looks at me like she's seeing a ghost. You have his eyes, she says simply. Come in, honey. There's so much to show you. I follow her inside, and my breath catches in my throat. The living room walls are covered with pictures of me, school photos I don't remember him having, newspaper clippings from high school art awards, even my college graduation announcement printed from the internet. How did he get all these? Your grandmother sent him school pictures until she passed when you were 12. After that, he hired people to find information about you. Look. She leads me down a narrow hallway to a small study, and I stop dead in the doorway. Every inch of wall space is covered with my life, a timeline he'd constructed of the daughter he couldn't reach. My wedding announcement. My divorce papers. Screenshots of my social media profiles printed and framed like precious artifacts. In the corner sits a stack of 18 wrapped presents, each one tagged in his handwriting. For my daughter Sarah, Christmas 2006. For my daughter Sarah, Christmas 2007. The pile goes all the way up to Christmas 2023. I sink into his desk chair, overwhelmed. The desk smells like Old Spice and ink and something indefinably him. Among the scattered papers, I find a half-finished letter in his familiar handwriting. My beautiful Sarah, I don't have much time left. The doctors say weeks now, not months. If you're reading this, it means Margaret kept her promise to send you the journal. I need you to know that not a single day passed when I didn't think of you, didn't wonder if you were happy, didn't hope you might find your way back to me. Margaret's voice is gentle behind me. He was writing that the morning he died. Never got to finish it. I pick up the letter with trembling hands and read the last lines. Your mother was hurting when she took you away. I've forgiven her, and I hope someday you can too. But mostly, I hope you can forgive me for not fighting harder, for not finding you sooner. You were the best thing I ever did with my life, and I am so proud of the woman you've become. Love always, Dad. The word Dad breaks something inside me that's been carefully held together for 18 years. I sob into my hands while Margaret rubs my back like a mother would. He used to sit in this chair every morning with his coffee and talk to your pictures, she says. He'd tell you about his day, ask about yours. Toward the end, when the pain medication made him confused, he'd sometimes think you were really there listening. I look up at the wall of photographs, my entire life reflected in my father's desperate love. He'd been there for every moment, even when I didn't know it. Even when I hated him for abandoning me. He never abandoned me, did he? I whisper. Never. Not for a single day. The package was meant for you all along, honey. He just ran out of time to deliver it himself. I drive back to Portland that night carrying 18 Christmas presents in my back seat and a truth that rewrites my entire history. My apartment feels foreign when I walk in. All those carefully curated walls of my artwork suddenly seem like elaborate hiding places. I sit on my couch surrounded by wrapped gifts I'm afraid to open, staring at my phone with my mother's number glowing on the screen. My finger hovers over the call button for 20 minutes. What do you say to someone who stole 18 years of your life? How do you confront the person who let you believe your father didn't love you while he was 3 hours away, dying alone, writing you letters you'd never receive? The rage comes first, hot and clean. She lied to me. She took his money, took me away, and then spent nearly 2 decades letting me think he'd abandoned us. Every Father's Day I spent feeling unwanted, every birthday wondering why he never called, all of it built on lies. But underneath the anger lives something more complicated. My mother was 26 when she left, the same age I was when my marriage fell apart. I remember that desperation, that feeling of being trapped with no good choices. I remember wanting to run away from everything that hurt, even when running meant leaving pieces of yourself behind. The phone rings in my hands, Margaret calling to check on me. I can't decide whether to call her, I admit. What's stopping you, honey? What if she hangs up on me? What if she gets defensive and we end up screaming at each other? What if confronting her doesn't change anything, he's still gone, and I still lost all that time with him? And what if you don't call her? The question hangs in the air. What if I don't call? What if I let this silence stretch on for months or years until she's gone too, and I'm left with nothing but regret and unanswered questions? Your father forgave her, Margaret says gently. It's in that letter you read. He spent 18 years angry, then the last few months of his life letting that anger go. Said it was too heavy to carry into whatever comes next. After we hang up, I unwrap one Christmas present, the one labeled 2006, the year everything fell apart. Inside is a snow globe with a little girl ice skating, blonde hair flying behind her like mine used to. The tiny plaque at the base reads, Sarah's first Christmas away. He bought this gift believing I'd come home eventually. Every year after, he kept hoping. I shake the globe and watch the fake snow swirl around the little skater. She looks fearless, arms outstretched, completely trusting that the ice will hold her. That's when I realize the real question isn't whether my mother deserves my forgiveness. The question is whether I deserve to stay frozen in this anger, letting it define the rest of my relationships, the rest of my life. My father spent 18 years searching for me, then chose forgiveness in his final months. He died believing love was stronger than hurt. Maybe it's time I found out if he was right. I dial my mother's number before I can lose my nerve. It rings once, twice, and on the third ring, she picks up. Sarah? Is everything okay? It's almost midnight. I found Dad's journal, Mom. I know he died last month. I know about the money you took. I know you lied to me for 18 years. Silence stretches between us like a chasm. Then, quietly, I know you did. I've been waiting for this call for 23 years, my mother says, her voice barely a whisper. Ever since the day I took you away from him. 23 years? I'm 34, Mom. You left when I was 16. No, honey. I've been running from this conversation since before you were born. Since the day I realized I was too broken to be the wife he deserved and too scared to be the mother you needed. Something in her voice stops my prepared accusations cold. She sounds smaller than I remember, fragile in a way that makes my anger falter. Tell me the truth, I say. All of it. And she does. For 4 hours, my mother tells me about her own childhood, an alcoholic father who beat her mother, a string of foster homes after social services intervened, aging out of the system at 18 with no family and no idea how to build one. When I met your father, he was this beacon of stability. Good job, nice family, knew how to fix things and make Sunday dinners and all these normal things I'd never learned. But I was waiting for him to leave, Sarah. I was waiting for him to realize I wasn't worth staying for. So you left first. I thought if I controlled when it ended, it wouldn't destroy me. But watching him lose his job, seeing him drink more, seeing bills pile up, it felt like all my worst fears coming true. Like I was poison that infected everything good in my life. I think about my own divorce, how I spent the last year of my marriage building walls, expecting David to walk away. How sometimes our deepest fears become self-fulfilling prophecies. You took his money, Mom. I took our grocery money. Money he would have spent at the bar anyway. I told myself I was saving us both from watching him lose everything. Her voice cracks. But I know what it really was. I was punishing him for not being perfect enough to save me from myself. And you told me he was dead. Because I was dead to him. I thought if you believed that, you could grieve and move on instead of spending your childhood wondering why your father didn't want you enough to come get you. The twisted logic of it takes my breath away. She destroyed our family to protect me from the very abandonment she created. He never stopped looking for me, Mom. He hired private investigators. He died broke because he spent everything trying to find us. She's crying now, the kind of deep, body-shaking sobs that sound like 18 years of buried guilt breaking free. I know. Margaret called me after his funeral. Told me everything. I've been living with that knowledge for 2 months, knowing I killed the love of 2 people's lives because I was too much of a coward to believe I deserved to be loved. Why didn't you call me? What was I supposed to say? Hi Sarah, remember your dead father? Turns out I lied and he actually just died for real, but this time it's partially my fault because I kept you away from him while he had treatable cancer. Despite everything, I almost smile. That sounds exactly like something my mother would say. I was wrong, she continues. I was so wrong. And I'm sorry doesn't fix 18 years of lies. It doesn't bring him back. It doesn't give you the father-daughter relationship you should have had. No, I agree. It doesn't. But Dad forgave you. He wrote it in his journal. Said you were hurting when you left, and he understood. He was always too good for me. Maybe that wasn't the problem, Mom. Maybe the problem was that you never believed you were good enough for him. The silence stretches between us, but it feels different now. Not empty, but full of possibility. I'd like to try, she says finally. I'd like to try being your mother for real this time, if you'll let me. I know I don't deserve it, but I'd like that too. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my father's study, my study now, surrounded by his love letters to me and the Christmas presents I finally found the courage to open. I moved to Bend in March, converting his workspace into my design studio, and every morning I make coffee in his favorite mug while Old Spice cologne still faintly clings to the curtains. I want to tell you something about forgiveness that I didn't understand before. I thought it was about deciding someone deserved a second chance. But real forgiveness is about deciding you deserve to stop carrying their mistakes around like stones in your chest. My mother moved here too, renting a small apartment 10 minutes away. We have coffee every Sunday after I visit Dad's grave, reading aloud from the journal entries I write to him now. It's awkward sometimes, learning to be daughter and mother at 34 and 57, but we're building something new from the wreckage of what we lost. I understand now, I told her last week as we planted roses by his headstone. You loved me so much it made you do terrible things. Dad loved me so much he died trying to find me. And somehow, I have to learn to love you both despite the damage you caused. She cried then, the way people cry when someone finally sees their broken heart without trying to fix it. The strangest thing is how different ordinary life feels now. I still work from home, still make my morning coffee, still water my plants, but now they're surrounded by 18 years of Christmas presents and birthday cards my father wrote but never sent. My refrigerator is covered with photos of us from when I was little, pictures Margaret found in his bedroom dresser. I have a family history now. Stories about my grandmother's famous apple pie recipe, about my grandfather who built furniture with his hands, about traditions and inside jokes and all the generational love I thought I'd lost forever. Margaret fills in the gaps, telling me about my father's last years, how he volunteered at the animal shelter, how he learned to cook Indian food because he read online that I liked it, how he kept a photo of my wedding day on his nightstand even though it broke his heart to see me marry someone else. Sometimes I catch myself talking to his picture while I work, the way Margaret said he used to talk to mine. Dad, I got a new client today. Remember how you always said I had artistic hands? I think you'd like what I'm designing. But here's what really changed, I'm not afraid of love anymore. For 18 years, I protected myself from deep connections because I believed the people who should love you most will eventually leave. I married David because he felt safe and distant, divorced him when he tried to get too close to the parts of me that still hurt. Now I understand that love doesn't guarantee you won't get hurt. It guarantees the hurt will be worth it. I'm dating someone new, a kind man named Michael who brings me flowers every Friday and doesn't flinch when I cry during movies about fathers and daughters. When he asks about my family, I show him Dad's journal and tell him about miracles that arrive in misdelivered packages. A stranger's package taught me that sometimes the people we think we've lost forever are just waiting for us to find our way back to them. That love doesn't end with death, it just changes addresses, finds new ways to reach us. That Tuesday morning, I thought I was signing for someone else's delivery. I had no idea I was signing for my own resurrection. I'm standing in my father's study again, holding his worn leather journal, but everything has changed. The Old Spice cologne no longer makes me cry, it makes me smile, remembering Saturday morning pancakes and bedtime stories I thought I'd lost forever. My hands don't shake anymore when I read his words. Instead, they're steady as I add my own entries to his pages, continuing a conversation that death interrupted but couldn't end. Dear Dad, it's been a year since Margaret sent me your words. I'm writing in your journal now, adding my voice to yours. I wish I could tell you that I forgive you for not fighting harder to find me, but there's nothing to forgive. You never stopped fighting. You just ran out of time. I look up at his photo on the mantle, surrounded by the Christmas presents I finally opened, the birthday cards he wrote but never sent. In the corner sits a new edition, a letter I'm writing to my future daughter, should I ever have one, for when you need to know how much you are loved. Through the window, I watch the mailman delivering packages to my neighbors, ordinary deliveries to ordinary lives. He has no idea that any one of them might hold the key to changing everything. That Tuesday morning, I thought I was just signing for a stranger's delivery. I had no idea it would bring you back into my life, 18 years too late but somehow still right on time. You taught me that love doesn't end with death, it just changes addresses. Asterisk. I close the journal and press it to my chest, no longer an orphan but a daughter who was loved so fiercely it survived death itself. Sometimes the most important deliveries are the ones that arrive by mistake, carrying exactly what we didn't know we needed, proof that we were never forgotten, never abandoned, never unloved. We were just temporarily lost in transit, waiting for love to find its way home.